Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, a radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Jeff Mack, Newmark Knight Frank, and Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Pat Riley, USI, and Ethan Milrod, GoTo. Jeff, can you give us a rundown on who we have on the show today, please?
Sure, Herb. We have Carrie, Kries, head of school, Gladwyne Montessori. Kelly Beck, CEO, PolyCore Therapeutics. Phon Malone is the CEO of Revel Nail. And Christopher Glover, president of EmployeeMax.
Let's get to know our first guest, Carrie Kries, head of school, Gladwyne Montessori. Carrie, what is Gladwyne Montessori?
It's the only American Montessori Society school, accredited school on Philadelphia's main line, serving infants to 6th grade.
And how many students is that?
Usually on average around 220.
And where are you from originally?
I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia on a farm.
Mm-hmm. And how young were you? And you told me you moved when you were 14. Why did you move and where'd you move to?
Yeah, we moved to Philadelphia when my parents got divorced.
Mm-hmm. So you were how young?
Right around 14.
14. All right. And how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the youngest of 3 girls.
So the youngest of 3 girls, you moved when you were 14 because your parents were divorced. And I'm trying to figure out, you're the head of Montessori. How young were you when education became really important to you, and why?
I was a little kid. My mom spent a ton of time with us as little girls, making sure that we had exposure to learning that was not typical, what we would typically find in our school.
Shannon?
Carrie, do you ever interact with the students?
As often as possible, yes.
What do you like? Why? Why would you do that?
The children are the joy. They're the reason I do my work.
Mm-hmm. Ethan?
Carrie, who else in your life was important to you when you were younger? Did you have any mentors growing up?
Yeah, for sure. Beyond my parents, which was when I was a little kid, when I was in college, I had a professor who taught me that everybody is a math person when I definitely didn't think I was.
And you said your parents were your mentors too? How so?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, as a little girl, foundationally, they were critical in establishing my sense of who I was and my love for life and learning.
Yeah. So what effect did that have on you? How did you carry that forward in what you're doing today?
Well, from my mom's perspective, I would say she was instrumental in inspiring me to want to know more than what was in front of me. Mm-hmm. My dad was instrumental for me in kind of sending me out on my own to explore and figure things out.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
You mentioned you had a great relationship with your sisters growing up. How did you spend most of your time?
Actually, it was my middle sister. She and I started out as best friends, and we remained that way now. We grew up on an 86-acre farm, and we were left to our own devices fairly all day.
And how did that relationship and that kind of experience lay the groundwork for who you are today?
So we explored and we made up games and we found our way and we got lost on purpose and then worked together to make that a really kind of playful, good experience. And that's how I approach my life as an adult.
And what does that have to do with the Montessori?
So Montessori is about self-directed, independent, courageous learning. And so as the school leader, I get to be the one who makes sure that our children every day are learning in this environment that promotes independence and self-directed learning.
Drew?
Yes, you told us that your mom used to like to teach you about Native American history. What was the lesson she hoped that you would learn?
At the time, I had no idea what the lesson was because it used to drive me crazy. She would make us sit at the table. Looking back, it's clear to me that her intention was what is in front of you as a kid in school is not always the full picture.
And how do you take that with you to work every day?
For me, I think it's a matter of exploring, going deeper, going broader, going to the bigger picture of what is not necessarily right in front of us as adults and also for our children.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
Carrie, do some of the kids that you've taught over the years come back and see and check in with you? And what are you most proud of about that?
Oh, gosh, yes. I have a couple of students that I stay in touch with fairly regularly. One I just literally connected with very recently.
How does it make you feel?
Honored, humbled, delighted.
You mentioned earlier that you were a teacher and that there was a principle that inspired you that affected who you is nowadays. What's that all about?
Sure. I had a principal in a public school in a suburb of Philadelphia who made it loud and clear to me that it was perfectly acceptable to just close my door and teach the heck out of kids. Whatever they wanted to learn, needed to learn, loved to learn, was my job to make sure that happened.
As opposed to
what is really expected from a school principal, which is follow this curriculum to a T, make sure that you're hitting all the standards of standardized education.
What's the benefit of doing it the creative way?
You're teaching children.
What are you talking about?
I mean, because historically, I would say children are expected to learn the same as every other child so that they fit into a certain mold and standard. And for me, that's not what learning is about. And I definitely learned that from my mom as a kid.
What are you talking about?
Well, when you are approaching your life, you should be motivated and inspired to learn by what interests you, what matters to you. And when it does matter to you, you go as deeply as you can into it and get great at it and enjoy it. That's the part that's missing, I think, in so many places, is the joy of learning.
Shannon, what else are you thinking?
Gary, what does it mean to you when these 6th grade students graduate from the school?
Oh, gosh, I feel so proud. We've had 9 graduates last year, which is a lot for a small school. And I get to watch them grow up, and then I get to watch them keep growing up because they stay in touch for years to come.
What have you learned from the kids?
That it's nothing else around us is as serious as it needs to be.
Wow.
Drew, what else are you thinking?
I thought you also mentioned that your mom liked to dig deeper for the truth. What was the lesson you learned there?
Yeah, I mean, when she forced us to sit at the table after dinner and listen to her read, which I look back fondly on, it was, don't believe everything that's flat in front of you. Don't listen and read and think that that's all there is to it. Go out of your way to find out more, because there's typically more to know.
Do you bring that culture to your students?
Absolutely. And to my teachers and to my staff is, let's go bigger and deeper and broader as often as we can so that it matters.
You mentioned on the farm that you and your sister went out and you got lost and you had to figure things out.
Yeah.
How does that impact your teaching style?
I mean, it impacts my teaching style insofar as it's okay for something to not feel quite tidy and expected. It's actually kind of exciting. It can be scary, but really exciting to not know exactly where you are, not know exactly what you're doing, and then figure it out, discover what's really behind it all.
What's the benefit to the kids of that?
There's no real wrong answer, and then there's some ownership there for the children. And there's ownership for teachers, by the way, when they get to explore too.
Who's got the next question?
What lights your fire, Carrie?
Oh, people being nice to each other for sure is probably one of the key things. But from a practical standpoint, what lights my fire, not as a professional, is building things, making things out of wood.
Wow.
What's that have to do with what you're doing in Montessori, this stuff building out of wood?
Well, I'm a maker. I grew up as a maker. If you have to get lost and explore and find your way, you build stuff to get yourself found again. And as a teacher, I'm a forever teacher. Even if I'm a school leader, I'll always be a teacher, is to say, be resourceful. What do you need? What do you need to solve for? And how can you make something to solve for that problem?
And you use the word resourceful?
Yeah, I had to be resourceful as a little kid, but I definitely had to be resourceful as a teenager. When my parents got divorced, I fairly well raised myself from that point forward. So you've got to figure things out on your own.
What's the website address for this organization known as Gladwyne Montessori?
Gladwyne.org.
Let me have that one more time.
Gladwyne.org.
We've been speaking with Carrie Kries, who's the head of school Gladwyne Montessori here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment. Right after this break, don't go away.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Kelly Beck, CEO of PolyCore Therapeutics. Kelly, what is PolyCore Therapeutics? What are you guys doing?
We're a biopharmaceutical company focused on neurodegenerative diseases.
And where are you from originally?
I grew up outside of Philadelphia in Boyertown.
And how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I am the only child.
An only child. And what was going on about 10 years old with you?
When I was 10 years old, my dad passed away. And so it was just me and my mom growing up.
Your dad passed when you were 10. It was just you and your mom. So what'd that do? What'd that do to you?
Forced me to grow up pretty fast and be independent and responsible.
Give us an idea of how it forced you to grow up. How'd that show up, that being forced to grow up real quick when dad passed?
So I was a latchkey kid. My mom worked full time. And so I came home from school, let myself in, had to make sure I did my homework, got ready for dinner, all of that on my own.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
Kelly, I've seen you as a leader in the life sciences community here in Philadelphia. How young were you when you started stepping up to the plate?
10 when my dad passed away, right? Because I had to do a lot of stuff to help my mom around the house, and then kind of took it from there in everything that I did.
What do you mean you had to help your mom around the house? Did she tell you that, or did you just assume that?
I assumed it.
You assumed what?
I assumed that I needed to help out, whether it was making dinner, cleaning the house, whatever needed to be done for us to,
So your middle name is responsible, isn't it? What's that have to do with who you are nowadays?
I feel responsible for the work that I do, my family, and providing for them and the people that I serve.
All right. Ethan?
Kelly, how young were you when you started making money?
I was about 11 or 12 as a babysitter.
You were a babysitter. What was special about you in babysitting?
So the family that I babysat for had two children, both girls. One had muscular dystrophy and the other had epilepsy.
And you were 11 years old and you were caring for them. What was that like for you?
There was a lot of responsibility to take care of them and provide for them. And at the same time, make sure that, as someone closer to their age was a peer. And so we had fun together as well.
What do you think you meant to them?
I think they saw me as a friend as well as a caregiver, and that their parents felt really comfortable and confident when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
That comfort and confidence, how did that prepare you for what you're doing today?
I think that led me eventually to the biotech industry, where we are providing therapeutics that will extend people's lives.
Shannon?
Kelly, when you think about your dad, what comes to mind?
He was a gregarious individual who loved people and loved life.
And what did you learn from your father that you carry with you today?
He never met a person he didn't like, And so he was a great networker, loved to get to know people. And I've carried that forward myself in terms of loving to network. I like to learn people's stories and get to know them.
And how does that help you build your business?
I think everything is built through networks, right? That's how you get to find new people, new investors, new employees. It's all interconnected.
Drew?
Kelly, you mentioned in the green room, mom had a strong work ethic. How did she demonstrate that to you?
So early on, when I was a kid, my mom went to work so that I could go to a private school because I was ahead in a grade, and the public school there wanted me to repeat a grade. So she went to work so that I could go into private school, and then continued to work, especially after my dad died, so that she could provide for us and make sure that my college was paid for.
What did that mean to you to see your mom getting up early, going to work so you could go to a better school?
It made me deeply appreciative and instilled in me that value that I want to pay that forward and do the same for my family.
And what do you bring to work every day from mom?
I think that deep commitment and responsibility and focus on, doing the best job that you can.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
Kelly, what kind of sports or activities did you play growing up?
I was a cheerleader in junior high.
And what was it that you liked about cheerleading?
I loved the camaraderie and the coming together as a team and supporting the different sporting events.
And how does that drag through to what you're doing today in your business?
I think when you look at biotech, you're coming together to serve patients and, provide them with better opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
Kelly, you're CEO of a very exciting company. How does your husband support your professional life?
I am very fortunate to have someone who is willing to pick up the reins at home and everything else in life to make sure that I have the flexibility and freedom to operate. And if I need to hop on a plane and go somewhere, he is absolutely supportive and willing to do whatever needs to be done at home.
We were talking in the green room when you were 13. You mentioned that at age 13, you were thinking, I'd like to be the CEO of Disney. Tell us about that. What was going on with you then?
I loved everything Disney and had read a book called Disney Wars that talked about Michael Eisner and Roy Disney, and decided that someday in my future, I thought I had wanted to be CEO of Disney. And that was kind of where my focus was for a number of years and what led me to go into business.
Herb, how do you analyze that one?
Well, it seems to me that, you've got a 13-year-old girl who's thinking about her future, who's planning her future, who's anticipating. Am I correct about that? You're quite the anticipator, Kelly?
Anticipator and quite the planner. I think most people who know me would say that.
Mm-hmm. And what was it about Disney that was exciting to you?
I think, you look at what Walt Disney built, especially in Disney World, and bringing people together in a happy place and providing them with joy. And that for me was attractive.
What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
So we're focused on Parkinson's disease. And so the ability to improve a patient's life with Parkinson's and extend not just their life, but their livelihood and the joy that they can get in the quality of life is really important.
So you're all about the win-win-win. You're not about a win-lose or somebody's got to lose or you got to hurt somebody. It's all about winning together with everybody, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What do you mean?
I think that there's always a benefit. I don't agree with somebody has to lose in order for somebody else to win. We are all in this together as a team. And so we need to find what works best for everyone.
So you're thinking that your customers, your team, the investors, that everybody can win together by working together because
absolutely.
And your role is the cheerleader in the team?
The cheerleader, the connector, the one that's really kind of, putting all of those threads together.
The planning?
Mm-hmm. Planning is a key part of that.
Well, let me ask you a question. The good thing about being the CEO is you get to go in late and come home early. You don't have to go put in extended hours, do you, or weekends?
Oh, absolutely, you do. You do whatever it takes to get the job done.
What time do you start thinking about work in the morning? What time do you stop thinking about it? And what's all that look like?
So, I'm usually up by 6 and thinking about what the day looks like. And while I may wind down for a period of time in the evening, it's still in the back of my mind of what needs to happen next. What emails do I need to respond to? Who do I need to reach out to? Mm-hmm. So I, probably shuts off maybe 11:30 at night.
Do you wake up with ideas in the morning?
I wake up in the middle of the night with ideas.
Thank you. That's what I thought was going to be the answer. Jeffrey, what else are you thinking?
What do you want your signature to be, Kelly, on PolyCore Therapeutics looking forward into the future?
That we were able to bring forward a new compound that improves the lives of patients and their families and really make a mark in the Parkinson's space.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what else are you thinking?
I just want to go back to the being on TV in school. Why did you do that? What was your role?
So in junior high and high school, I was part of the TV team that broadcast the news and was an anchor and a sports reporter as well. And I really enjoyed getting, to share those stories with students.
That's really cool. And what would your friends tell us that were on the crew about you?
That whenever I messed up, it was a pretty public mess up that was usually often entertaining as well.
But on the other hand, you were comfortable putting yourself on the line. You were comfortable being up front. I guess that's the same thing as presenting to investors or leading the team. Is there a connection there?
Absolutely. I wasn't afraid to step forward. And like I said, even if I messed up, you pick yourself up and you keep going forward. Yeah, I think it's the only way you can learn and grow.
Yeah, it's like stepping up. That's a question that Jeff asked you, the first question, which was, how young were you when you stepped up? And it has to do with your dad passing in when you were 10, just taking the ball and running with it. What's the website address of this organization known as PolyCore Therapeutics?
Yes, PolyCoreTherapeutics.com.
We've been speaking with Kelly Beck, CEO of PolyCore Therapeutics, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Phon Malone, CEO of Revel Nail. Phon, what is Revel Nail? What are you guys doing?
Revel Nail is the world's largest manufacturer of dipping powder for women's fingernails.
How large or how small is the company, and how'd you get a job with it?
I started the company. The company right now is 6 years old. We have about 200 employees.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 3 adopted brothers and sisters, 3 biological brothers and sisters, and 3 half brothers and sisters.
Where you from originally?
I was born and raised in Vietnam originally.
And what happened when you were 7 and 8 and 9 and 10?
When I was 7 was the first time that I escaped Vietnam. We got caught and put in jail. The second time that I escaped Vietnam, I was about 8 years old, and I was successful in getting out, and I lived in the refugee camp for about 2 years in Galang, Indonesia.
What was it like living in a refugee camp from the ages of 8 to 10 in Galang, Indonesia?
It was tough. I had to grow up overnight. I didn't have any parents or adults taking care of me, so often I had to figure out ways to feed myself.
What else?
I lived in a monastery, a Buddhist monastery, for about 6 months when I was in the refugee camp. I had to, cut down coconut, cut down bananas, sell them, trade them for food. I had to be a hustler and be a survivor.
Didn't you actually tell us that you had to find food? You had to steal it sometimes?
Yeah, I did. And there was I often stole food from like a Buddhist statue. That's when a Buddhist monk caught me and took me in for about 6 months. The other year and a half, I was living with other boys, and we were helping to take care of each other. We would fish, we would hunt, we would, harvest fruits and vegetables to help feed ourselves.
Gotcha. Pat.
You mentioned in the green room that one of the benefits actually of the refugee camp was that it gave you a chance to develop yourself. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I literally had to grow up overnight. I didn't have anyone to take care of me. I had to be resourceful in terms of feeding myself. And I had to be, resourceful in terms of like finding ways to survive, never giving up. It really shaped the way how I am today.
And how do those lessons carry through to your business today?
Yeah, so those 2 years were probably the 2 hardest years of my life. So certainly anything that's beyond that, everything comes easy for me now these days.
Mm-hmm. Ethan?
Where did you get the funding to start Revel Nail?
So our funding for the company came from our customers. We were.
What do you mean?
When a company is a startup, it's impossible to get funding from a bank. So we asked our customers to help pay for their orders when they placed it. So often they would, cut us a check for $500,000 and trust that we would ship them products in 4 to 8 weeks.
Let me understand. This is when you're starting up. They're prepaying, and you're just starting up as a company. What does that say about you?
So they had a lot of trust in me. I've known these people for 10 to 15 years, and they trusted me, and they're willing to give me money in advance of before getting their products. It's a matter. Jeffrey?
Phon, why start your own business? It takes a lot of risk. Why not just go get a regular job with a big company?
I always want to better myself. So I've worked with other people, worked for other people, and naturally, one of the things I want to do, and I didn't want to, die and regret not starting a business. So certainly, I took the risk, and it's the best decision I made so far.
Shannon?
Phon, in the green room, you mentioned your wife played an important role in you starting your company. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, my wife is certainly the head of our household. She's a great mother. When we started the business, she was taking care of 3 young children. She's now the HR leader in the company, and extremely intelligent and smart. And she's my best friend, a great business partner, and certainly a great wife and mother to our children.
Mm-hmm. And what did you learn from her that has helped you to build this business?
She's extremely compassionate. She thinks of other people. I take her advice on a daily basis. She's certainly, helping to shape the culture of our company, making our company a better place to work at.
Drew?
I just want to go back to this refugee. You said that you kind of bound together with 6 or 7 other kids. What would they tell us about you, those other kids?
I would say that, I'm a trusting guy. I'm loyal. I'm friendly. I'm helpful. I don't screw people over.
Would they be surprised where you're at today?
I don't think so. No.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess I'm. I have a nature in terms of just trying to always be better myself, never giving up, trying to learn things. If I'm trying to learn how to, ride a bike or whatever, I will keep on trying to ride a bike for 2 days.
Pat, what are you thinking there?
Most kids started when first grade when they were around 6, but you started when you were 10, and then you ended up skipping some grades and graduating on time. Can you tell us a little bit about that path?
Yeah, I first came to the United States when I was 10, so I didn't speak a word of English. So I started first grade, and naturally I was 10 years old, whereas everyone else was 6. So I always got picked first for kickball, but I skipped 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade, and I graduated high school when I was 18 years old.
And is that something that was important to you to skip those grades to graduate on time?
No, not necessarily. I think what held me back in school was the language. Once I figured that out, I was always a smart kid, good in math, and I graduated straight A's in high school, and so I'm not surprised by that.
Well, Drew?
Yeah, Phon, you mentioned that you were on the wrestling team. What did you learn from that experience?
I was on the wrestling team. I was a 3-year captain, my sophomore to senior year. I learned that I can be a leader, how to motivate people and get people to trust me. Because every year was a voting process.
So you're saying as a sophomore, the other kids on the team voted you as a sophomore as the captain, right?
Yes.
What did they see in you to select you?
I was an extremely hard worker. I led by example.
And how has that impacted what you're doing today?
That's the way how I run my business, and that's how I live my life every day.
Mm-hmm. Phon, this it sounds like in the refugee camp, one of the ways you learned how to survive and thrive was hanging out with the community of other kids, really learning who you could depend on and letting them know that they could depend on you. How's that affecting what you're doing nowadays outside the business?
To me, everything is about trust. I name my boys after me, at least their middle names, so that hopefully in the future, if they do take over the business, I want people to talk positive about me. So I'm a kind of person that, like, to me, my word is more important than any piece of paper or contract that I sign. That's the way how I live my life, and that's how I run my business. And
you're looking to build a legacy. It sounds to me, if you're looking to bring the kids into it, this is not a build and sell situation. This is an ongoing entity for many, many generations and years, you're hoping, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
Phon, you had a very unique and difficult upbringing as a young kid. What have you learned from your 3 children?
I think, it's to never give up. You can do anything you want with hard work, and you just got to trust the people around you, build the right team around you. And
what have your 3 kids taught you?
They're certainly keeping me humble. They're great kids. They're extremely compassionate. I am grateful that they're going to have better opportunities that I did. And that's just my goal, is to make sure that that their life is going to turn out better than mine.
Well, what's the website address, Phon, for this organization known as Revel Nail?
RevelNail.com.
How do you spell that?
RevelNail.com.
We've been speaking with Phon Malone, CEO of Revel Nail, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Christopher Glover, who is the president of EmployeeMax. Christopher, what is EmployeeMax and how large or small?
EmployeeMax is a 1,200 employee operation. We're a business administrative services coordinator. We partner with our business owners and their leadership team to deliver HR, payroll, benefits, risk, safety, accounting, tax services.
What kind of community are you from originally? Where'd you come from? What kind of community?
I grew up right outside of Philadelphia in Delaware County. I say I was a county kid because I was all over that county. I wasn't in one specific.
Was that a fancy dancy neighborhood?
I was, America, middle of the road.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I am the only one.
And what was going on with you? You're an only child. What was going on with you about 11 years old?
Around 11 is when my mother passed away. So at that point, it was just me and my father.
And your mom passed from what? What kind of stuff? What was that again?
MS, multiple sclerosis.
MS. So it was just dad and yourself. And what happened to the dynamic, and what did that do to you at the age of 11?
Well, at the age of 11, when you don't have a mother, you wind up doing a lot of things for yourself. So for sporting events, you have to wash your clothes. You have to get your meals together. So, you wind up figuring out how to care for yourself.
Drew?
Yeah, I was just curious, what you hear your mom whispering in your ear every day when you're faced with tough decisions.
Be comfortable. My mother went out of her way to make sure that I was comfortable in any situation, whether horseback riding or playing sports or interacting with older people or going to dinner. You always need to have a sense of self and comfort.
Why was it important for your mom to show you all these different activities?
I just think based on her upbringing from being down south, and she knew that she wanted me to do more and have more. She wanted me to be comfortable in those scenarios, and which I think she probably wasn't as she was growing up.
Is that meaningful to you?
It's extremely meaningful. It showed me the things that need to be instilled to team and family. You want your people to be comfortable in their own skin.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
Tell us about your dad. What did he do for a living?
My dad was a facilities manager at Temple University for over 30 years.
And you were close to, did you ever go to work with your dad?
It was every Saturday for about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years. It was, I would go and watch him work and do his thing.
What did his coworkers tell you? He had a lot of community there. What did those guys tell you about you and him?
I remember vividly that the gentleman would always tell me, if you wind up being half of the man that your father is, you'll be more of a man than myself. So just let me know the kind of individual that I had in my house.
Mm-hmm. Has your father seen the success that you've created for yourself, Chris?
My father is actually in the house with me right now. So he's with me and my wife. How
do you think he feels about the success you're enjoying?
It seems to be motivating them. It helps him as well.
Yeah, with 1,200 employees. Ethan?
Christopher, you were mentioning early in the green room that you're really comfortable being independent and a loner. Tell us more about that, especially as when you were younger. What was that like?
There was a day shortly after my mother passed away that I came home from school and I realized that it was just me. And while I was anticipating freaking out about that moment, it was far from that. It was a comfort to know that it was going to be okay and I'd be fine. And that, as strange as it was, I didn't feel as though I was by myself. So,
what did that moment teach you?
To have faith, really.
Faith? What do you mean? Faith in yourself?
Faith in myself, faith in strange parts, faith in life. You're not going to go through life alone. You will have people that you need to provide you with whatever emotional, financial, spiritual support that you need to make it through life.
Yeah. How do you think that prepared you for being the president of EmployeeMax?
1,200 people.
1,200 people, yeah.
Well, that 1,200 comes through partnership. I think it prepared me to be a good partner because I'm trying to understand how to be helpful and where to place the most appropriate amount of help.
Shannon?
Christopher, you also mentioned in the green room that after your mom passed, you had parents, teachers, coaches, all reaching out and supporting you. What did that mean to you?
It really showed me the value that family goes beyond just the blood. People care and people want the best for an individual. So, my coaches would make sure that I got home on time. My friends' mothers would make sure that from time to time they would cook a meal for me. So just, little things, but they meant a lot.
And how are you recreating that today, the fact that family goes beyond blood relatives?
Well, whether it's my clients or the employees that we work with, we want them to feel cared for and feel like someone has their back. At least in my role, that's my job, is to make sure that I'm providing a quality relationship for the employees as well as for the clients.
Pat?
You mentioned that you had a lot of influential coaches growing up. What sports did you play?
I played basketball. I played soccer, track and field. I just loved moving as a child. So,
and what type of positions did you have on those teams?
At soccer, I was a center mid, so a little bit of offense, first line of defense. And in basketball, I was a 6th or 7th man off the bench, but I was the glue guy. I was always the muscle guy.
How does that translate to what you're doing today?
Well, I'm first line on offense and defense for my clients. I'm either trying to help them grow or trying to protect them from, disaster in one way, shape, or form. And I'm still the glue guy. I'm still the guy that's coming in there trying to figure out how to help, how to make it better, how to make it work stronger.
Who's got the next question?
I was just curious, when you were participating in sports, if your father was able to come watch you.
No, it was one of the weirdest things ever. My dad would come to baseball games from time to time. And my dad was different. He would come to the baseball games, he'd sit out in the car and not participate with the other parents. But he would be there from time to time, but not often would he come to a lot of my sporting events because he was working.
And you mentioned that when you were a kid, you would also go with your uncle, who was a pastor, to church, and you got very involved in church when you were a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old. What was that all about?
So, part of my education required that I go to church. I went to a small private school, and my uncle was a pastor. He would take me to church with them, and long story short, by the end of the experience, I was a deacon and giving communions and all kinds of fun stuff.
You have a very, very deep, caring side to you, don't you?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that was instilled from my family. My dad cared about his employees. He cared about us. My mom cared about her community. She cared about me. And just passed that along.
Well, yeah, but you got 1,200 employees. You don't normally hear that stuff about the CEO.
Well, my CEO is actually my partner who, helps us grow this. But for me, when I came into EmployeeMax, I came in as an investor and I saw that there was a need for help. So I had to come in there, help get the employees to a good place. I had to help transact the business to a better operating partner because it was the right thing to do. And people's lives and their livelihoods were at stake. So it's just par for the course.
So your middle name is Help?
I start everything with help. When I design a business, the first thing that I think of is how does it help and who is it going to help?
I thought you're supposed to start a business figuring out how much money you can make, how much is in it for you.
The secret of life is giving equals receiving. If you figure out how to give first, then your receiving part will take care of itself.
Wait a minute. Give me that again.
Giving equals receiving. Figure out how to give, and life will give you. So if I figure out how to help first, I don't have to worry about the finances. They'll take care of themselves, and they always do.
Where'd you learn that from?
A mentor of mine actually was the one who taught me giving equals receiving.
Are you still involved in the church?
Not at the same capacity, but, it seems to be something that people tend to think I'm still heavily involved in. I just think it's just who you are. So,
who's got the last question for?
When you look out over your company, Kris, and you've shaped it yourself, how do you feel today about what you've created?
I'm most proud of taking the employees and the clients that were in the way when I originally invested in EmployeeMax and getting them to a place of safety and comfort as it relates to EmployeeMax. And the other thing I truly enjoy is because I'm in this trade and this transaction, I'm able to really focus on helping my business partners grow and improve their operations and taking care of what's really precious to them, their business.
Christopher, what's the website address for EmployeeMax?
EmployeeMax.com.
We've been speaking with Christopher Glover, president of EmployeeMax here on Executive Leaders Radio. Jeffrey, can you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of hanging with today?
Sure. What a great show, Herb. We have Carrie, Kries, head of school, Gladwyne Montessori, Kelly Beck, CEO, PolyCore Therapeutics, Phon, Malone, CEO of Revel Nail, and just now Christopher Glover, president, EmployeeMax.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Jeff Mack, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Pat Riley, USI, Ethan Milrod, GoTo, and Shannon Lane from Newmark Knight Frank for giving me a hand structuring the questions. Hope at providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining radio show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, it's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.